are here for citizen comment and need to get their homework done. I am going to, as the mayor's prerogative, move citizen comment to the first item on the agenda. Citizen comment is an important part of council meetings. We welcome comments from all citizens, and we encourage the expression of different opinions and viewpoints. Comments from concerned citizens are another reason that makes the city of Evanston a remarkable place to live. In terms of the Kendall matter, the city's Board of Ethics concluded its independent investigation and determined there was no conflict of interest regarding Kendall. Pursuant to Council Rule 6.4, that matter is concluded and is beyond the jurisdiction of the Council. All further redundant comments made on this subject made by any speaker will be ruled out of order. No further redundant and duplicative comment. Such comment, which has gone on for over 17 months, will be heard on the Kendall matter at this or any other Council meeting. This ruling is in accordance with the Council rules, the holding of the U.S. Supreme Court in Perry Education Association versus Perry Local Educators Association, and Section 206G of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. That being said, I'm delighted you are all here. There is a 3-minute rule for speech for public comments, so please keep your comments to that amount. The first speaker will be Ava Greenwell. I'm going to call 4 names: Ava Greenwell, Dale Greenwell, Reverend Mark Dennis, and Joshua Biltall at 1229 Emerson.
Good evening. My name is Ava Greenwell. I live in the 1600 block of Kirk in the 8th Ward and Rainey's Ward. Yesterday, our 13-year-old son participated in a heartwarming interdenominational service with the historically black Second Baptist Church and St. Nicholas Parish, an historically white church that has a growing Hispanic population. The partnership celebrated Evanston's diversity while drawing attention to both congregations' 125th anniversary. We all know that Evanston's diversity makes it unique. When I moved here in 1993 to take a faculty position at the Medill School of Journalism, the city was already a familiar place. I had received undergraduate and graduate degrees from Medill and thought Evanston would be a great place to raise children. It was known as racially and socioeconomically diverse, better than most places to raise children of color. However, after serving on school committees, I began to see undertones of systemic racial inequalities in the city. On August 30th, I came face to face with one of those inequalities: police racial profiling. By now, most of you have probably heard about the incident, so I won't go into the details. Suffice it to say, I am still reeling over witnessing my 13-year-old son, a minor, being handcuffed on his own property with his mother present and no questions asked of him or me first. What's even worse is that police disregarded my protest about the handcuffing and paraded our son to the front of our home in what's called a show-up so the alleged victim could come over to identify him. The whole procedure was unprofessional, unfair, and unconstitutional. It was a violation of our son's Fourth Amendment rights. As harrowing as the incident was, however, it provides us with some teachable moments. Perhaps it was time for someone to stand up for all the others, particularly the young African Americans who've been victims without a voice. I now have nearly 1,000 former students, many of whom work for major news organizations. They, along with a number of my NU colleagues, have contacted me to say they are shocked at what happened in Evanston. It's time to have a serious discussion about racial profiling in our city, but just talking about it is not enough. We must act. First, our family deserves an official written apology for the unnecessary, unreasonable handcuffing of our son. Second, a copy of all reports and other documents pertaining to this case, including all police radio transmissions and flash messages. 3, disclosure of all complaint histories, including citizen complaints and internal investigation complaints pertaining to all the officers involved, particularly the complaint history of the arresting officer who treated us with disrespect. An expedited determination of the internal affairs investigation with full disclosure of the results to our family first. Last Wednesday, Chief Eddington said this could take 45 to 60 days. Let's set a specific date so we all know exactly when to expect it. Our family wants an explanation of why unmarked and marked cars were parked several houses from our home on September 3rd, 2012. Just today, my neighbor alerted me to 2 unmarked cars parked 2 blocks away. Is this a coincidence or retaliation? To further address police policy and behavior, the following should be implemented. A policy of formal written apologies to all victims of unreasonable police actions. A review of the policy regarding the stopping and detaining of people by Evanston police, and as part of this review, the public release of statistics on the race, age, gender, location, and outcomes of all persons stopped, frisked, and or detained by the Evanston police over the last 5 years. If these records are not kept, then the immediate implementation of such record keeping. If there is a pattern disclosed of racial profiling, such unconstitutional behavior must cease immediately. A 2009 ACLU report called Racial and Ethnic Profiling a widespread and pervasive problem throughout the United States. So to think it doesn't happen in Evanston is sinking our heads in the sand. We have been contacted by several African American families who've told us stories of offensive behavior by Evanston police. It is important that Evanston conduct a citywide survey of citizens' interactions and perceptions of police, and after this review, a public hearing on the issue should be held. A review of the Evanston police show-up policy and a disclosure of the records of show-ups conducted by the police over the last 5 years would be extremely valuable. Legal scholars right here at Northwestern University have written that eyewitness identification evidence is incredibly unreliable and is by far the leading cause of wrongful convictions. Some states have banned show-ups. We need a review of 911 dispatch procedures. Why didn't the operator in our case ask more questions about the alleged burglary? Black male, just like white male, means very little without more details. Evanston schools are becoming blacker and browner, and the city should work with the school system to make sure every student who completes 5th grade in District 65 learns proper protocol for how to act when approached by police and what their rights are if stopped. If we ask our students to learn how to prevent sexually transmitted diseases, why shouldn't they learn how to protect themselves from police misconduct? In both cases, knowing what to do could save their lives. These lessons can be woven into social studies curricula and repeated in the 7th grade when students are required to pass the U.S. Constitution tests. During this election season, a quote from Thomas Jefferson seems appropriate. Who will govern the governors? There is only one force in the nation that can be depended upon to keep the government pure and the governors honest, and that is the people themselves. They alone, if well informed, are capable of preventing the corruption of power and of restoring the nation to its rightful course if it should go astray. Something has gone astray here. This is not the Evanston I expected for our children. I ask you, City Council, as Evanston prepares to celebrate its 150th anniversary next year, what will its legacy be? Will it be the dream of racial harmony that I witnessed yesterday at St. Nicholas Church, or the nightmare I witnessed outside my own home on August 30th?
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate, if you can keep your comments to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated.
Okay, I'll be short. My name is Dale Greenwell. I live in the 1600 block of Kirk Street here in Evanston. I'm a 20-year resident, and more importantly, I'm a law-abiding citizen. As a longtime Evanstonian, I take pride in our community. As a taxpayer, I want Evanston to be the beacon of light that shines nationwide. I'm sure you want the same. On August 30th, my ideals of Evanston were tainted by events that occurred involving my son and my wife. For those of you who were not present at the Human Services meeting on last Wednesday, I talked about all of the what-ifs. What if my wife had not been there at home? What if my son got scared and started to run? What if the victim misidentified him as the actual assailant? What if I were home instead of my wife? What if my son reached for his phone in an attempt to call his parents? These are questions that we must address. I'm hopeful that we can prevent what happened to my son from happening to other innocent boys, particularly those of color. We know that crimes exist and are very aware that there are some who break the law, but it's not acceptable to round up the innocent to apprehend the guilty. This practice is called profiling. There's a lot of good that can come from this, but if we miss this opportunity to get it right, then this town will fall short of being that diverse place that we all like to brag about. Unlike what the media may sometimes portray, all young black boys and men are not criminals, as you know. And as taxpayers, we're not going to be treated as such. I want to go on record and say that we must address the issue of profiling sooner than later before a tragic incident occurs. The solution must come from you. I mentioned on last Wednesday, but I think it's worth mentioning again, what a nice, smart, decent young man my son is. It is important that he knows that, and you as well. So I'm going to tell you, he's an honor roll student at Chute Middle School, taking honors math, entering in his 8th grade year. He has never been involved in an incident of bad behavior since he's attended Chute. He has won several High-Flying Eagle Awards at Chute. He speaks fluent Spanish, having gone through two-way immersion program from kindergarten to 5th grade. He plays alto sax for the jazz and concert band at Chute. He participates in baseball, basketball, and football in the community. He currently plays basketball for FAM, Chute, AAU, and has participated in other athletic camps in the Chicagoland area. He's a member of the precision drill team at his church for the last 5 years. He attended a prestigious writing camp at the University of Illinois Chicago over the summer as one of the 15 African-American males selected from 100 applicants. He has friends of all races and ethnicities and frequently welcome at their homes, and we often have them over at our house as well. As you can see, he's a very gifted young man. I don't want him growing up disliking law enforcement because we know most officers do the right thing and do a good job. Our complaint was primarily about the lack of discretion and respect that was shown. In fact, we wouldn't even be here if a sincere apology was given. As citizens, we should be just as concerned because this is Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Dennis is next.
The mayor and the aldermen and all persons present today in this room. I stand as pastor of Second Baptist Church behind one of the best families in our congregation, a very stellar group of people, a trustee, active participants, and one of the best men I've ever pastored, a young man with much promise, but who unfortunately has been shattered with an experience that may tarnish his life. We pray for his spirit. We pray for his future. We still have hopes that God will make him the best beacon of light possible. I stand also as the moderator for the Evanston Clergy Association, and I stand more importantly not only for the Greenwells, but the other members of our congregation who, after this incident happened, came, sent letters, and many of them said the same thing has happened. I have those letters. In some cases, I have permission to share those with you. I'm not going to do that tonight. At another occasion, we can do that. But I would like for all of the persons present tonight who've been falsely accused, wrongly arrested, for a moment of time detained from the police here in Evanston to stand here tonight. We did not go out to campaign or recruit people to come. We simply made a statement that this was going to happen, and our prayers are with the Greenwells. We will support them and affirm them, and it is amazing how people in our church care for one another, and they simply showed up. That's a testimony to the gravity of this situation. And as pastor of one of the oldest churches like the city of Evanston, we're approaching our 130th year. We intend to say always that we are good citizens. We are good people of this community. We don't take no junk, no stuff, and we stand tall. We stand tall for righteousness. We stand tall for civil obedience. And when disobedience happens, no matter in what quarters or ranks, we take a stand against it. I stand with the young man, Dewani. I stand with his mother and the father, but I stand also to say with those who have approached us, we do have a problem. I wouldn't be here tonight unless I was certain that we have a problem. It's bigger than I thought. It's bigger than I ever knew. It's something that we need to pay attention to. For too many people of color, we have known since childhood that we would always be suspected of the worst. It is only when an incident happens to someone good like the Greenwells that we tend to stand tall in the midst of adversity or denials. This problem is often called profiling. From antiquity to now, profiling is based upon a set of subjective perceptions about the topology or the character or the dignity of a certain group of people within the community. Used positively, profiling can be an appropriate tool to assess the gifts, the greatness, and the power and the strength of a group of people. Used very negatively and punitively, it becomes an oppressive tool to denigrate the soul, the character, and to negatively impact and affect and permeate the life and experiences of a people for generations to come. That's why we're here. This will happen again unless we call attention to it, unless we take corrective actions now to make it happen. It has happened to my son, it happened to my father, and it's happened to me several times. Even at the age 63, we're always suspicious or suspect, even in walking through a store. We know that. We don't get angry about that. But it's something that we have been trained and taught by our parents to watch out around you. But someone has profiled you. That's the way that we have taught and learned and become acculturated. And we're simply saying, we should not bear that burden. Oh, no. We should bring it to your attention that in our beautiful, wonderful, great city of Evanston, we can become better. We can do better. I've spoken to Chief Eddington and shared with him my position. I love him as a person and as a brother. I will stand with him and stand with the police officers. We have persons from our staff who attend to the police officers in their time of need. Now it's our time to attend to the Greenwells and all the others who have been abused and wrongly accused of doing the wrong thing. So too many of us are tired and sick and tired of taking this sense of second-class citizenship and being pulled over, being arrested. We call it what it is, profiling, racial profiling. In the language of some people I know from the South, it is simply an act of ugliness and evil that has no positive result whatsoever and certainly has no place within this city or any community. We would like to suggest with the Greenwells that there be diversity and sensitivity training. We demand an apology, an official apology for the Greenwells, and to make a new day and a new start in this community. To say we will work together, just like the high school has done. It can happen here. We will participate in that process. We will be glad to see it happen. And at the very least, we intend to stand together with you to make this city better. If we don't, the future is obvious. We will lose our great heritage. We will lose the identity of being one of the best diverse cities in this country. I don't want to see that happen. You don't either. Thank God it happened at the right time to the wrong people. Thank God they are bold enough, strong enough to stand up for their son. Thank God it didn't have to take a bad or worse incident to get our attention. We are smart enough, wise enough to make it a difference. And we stand here to say we'll work with you in making that difference happen. We're not criminals. We're law-abiding citizens. We want to be treated that way, even when people dare to profile us. That is what we stand for. There are clergy persons, 12 of them here today, pastors, who are here in support, for they share the same concern within their congregations. Again, we didn't gather people, poll them, ask them, invite them to come. They simply heard about it, and we all stand together.
Thank you. Joshua Siltal, 1229 Emerson, then George Mitchell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm George Mitchell, President of the Evanston North Shore branch of the NAACP, among other roles in the community. and I rise to address an issue brought to our attention by many Evanston residents and the parents of a 13-year-old African-American boy apprehended by the Evanston Police Department at his home in front of his mother and his neighbors for an alleged burglary. Several police officers participated in his apprehension, and he was handcuffed and detained for a witness-victim identification type lineup. He was the only target. Imagine the scene with police cars and officers and a youngster in handcuffs in front of his home. Who was the criminal? I guess it was easy for the witness and bystanders to know. He had been branded. Fortunately for the boy, the victim witness in this case exonerated him by indicating he's not the one. What a relief. However, the problem is that, as described, the offender was African American and youthful and wearing khaki cargo shorts and a dark shirt. The description could have been applied to a lot of people. I hope his apprehension was based on more than the cargo shorts or his youthful appearance, because based on more than the cargo shorts and his youthful appearance, because the other parts of the description didn't fit him. I hope his bicycle that he was riding was seen as a getaway vehicle. But then that would apply to a lot of others in Evanston. I hope the apprehension was based on the apprehension tactics was based on focused and not a wide target dragnet type of apprehension. I hope what didn't happen was that his skin was the first thing that made him the immediate suspect. I wonder how many other African American males were apprehended in response to this burglary. The young man I'm referring to is a good student, never been in trouble, and trying to do things the right way. Yet he was accused by the police. How will he be viewed by his neighbors? What does this do to his psyche? One of the good ones, and yet he's detained and handcuffed. I know mistakes happen, but a Maxwell Smart style, sorry about that apology is not adequate. At a minimum, the apology should be made with the aggressiveness with which the youth was apprehended. Today's behaviors shape attitudes and feelings for tomorrow. I appreciate why many African Americans don't trust the police and the justice system as institutions. We must find better ways as a community to provide protection, distinguish between people, and a better way of saying sorry. I think it is important for the entire community to stand up in support of this 13-year-old, soon to become a man, and demand accountability by the police department. I think it is important that the entire community demand better ways of confronting people in one community, as we would expect in any other community. But most importantly, we as a community must demand a real police apology to the young man and his family. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next is, Joshua, would you state your name, please?
My name is Joshua Hall, and I live at 2509 Prospect. I'm the Vice President of the high school chapter of the NAACP. As a student first and a social justice activist next, I can tell you that incidents such as this can leave a negative impact left behind. Student lives are shaped by what they learn at home, school, personal lives, and through their walk into the real world. We can have the most successful students in the world, but the moment where this flow is interrupted is the moment where we have the same problems that we are trying so hard to prevent and solve. Anytime that an interaction with our authority members are met, it can encourage the student to have a sense of pride and respect, or it can devastate some of them for the rest of their lives and cripple their generations to come. We know that every student has a dream and a desire to be the most respectable members of our society. But the moment when a student's faith is crushed and discrimination of any kind is introduced into their lives, we as a community weep. We suffer. We witness how a student with so much potential becomes filled with anger, hatred, and distress. Situations such as the Greenwell should never happen this way. We can see how too many students turn into what our society labels as troubled teens, or a menace to society. I can tell you that this does not hold true for all. Many are misjudged and misunderstood. Yes, we need authority figures within our community. Yes, we need to understand that everyone operates under difficult situations. But what we hold most precious to us, our children, youth, teens, and young adults of Evanston, need not to perish. We cannot afford to let this slide, just as a young boy with Skittles, hoodie, and a beverage cannot go unrecognized, unremembered. Just as we cannot allow situations where a young boy who fits the description of dark skin and cargo shorts go unnoticed. These conversations need to rise and show face, because we cannot allow these situations to be buried under the rug. Yes, we know that some of our peers do not act right, but when this trust is broken, we can see how so many students feel like criminals. We see how this distrust goes both ways. As a black high school senior, it's a shame that my own mother and grandmother feels it's necessary to teach me survival skills when I walk outside my door. It's a shame how students like me have to stay on their toes when they should be staying focused in what truly matters. Their walk to be those respectable members of our society. Our students are talking, why aren't we? Once again, my name is Josh Hall, and it's been time we had this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next is Junad Risky, Padma Rao, BK Rao, and Jackie Newsom.
Can you change my position and let the other speakers speak on this police matter, and I'll speak on the other?
That's fine. There is a sign-in sheet, which I have. Padma Rao and BK Rao.
Padma Rao, 2246 Sherman. My comments were approved by my attorney. At your meeting on August 13th, you made a public spectacle of your bigotry and racist hatred against me and my mom. Your mayor interrupts and attacks us and turns off our microphone when we speak. But your mayor allowed a white person to talk at length about exactly the same subject that she forbids us from even alluding to. So for precisely the same topic, your mayor tries to silence me and mom, but she does not give a white person the same abuse. We were born with a darker complexion, and when you attack us for that reason, it's called racism. We follow a minority religion that teaches respect for all life, especially trees, and when you try to silence us for that reason, it's called religious oppression. When you deprive us of rights because we're a minority, it's called discrimination. When you make up rules that apply only against us, it's called apartheid. Racism, religious oppression, discrimination, and apartheid by public officials is an unconstitutional violation of civil rights. I submit the taxpayers would also call it a shameful waste of public resources. Your mayor demands that the public be civil, which is her code word for agreeing with her. I submit that there is nothing civil about public officials depriving minorities of civil rights. I further submit that no civil society should agree when public officials violate the constitutional rights of minorities. According to an order entered on June 28th, a federal judge ordered the city to pay over $45,000 in legal fees in the civil rights case La Salvia v. City of Evanston. I urge taxpayers to follow another civil rights case filed in federal court, Davies v. City of Evanston. I submit that tax dollars should not be wasted to defend public officials when they violate the constitutional rights of minorities. At your August 13th meeting, you let a white person talk about the Kendall re-subdivision without interruptions or retorts from you. Now it's my turn. Based on our religious belief that trees should be protected and should not be needlessly killed, we oppose this council's vote to sentence over 24 mature trees to death for no reason at Kendall. Based on our religious belief that all life deserves respect, we oppose this council's vote at Kendall for an alley that dumps traffic onto the narrowest street and thereby endangers the lives of young children and other pedestrians. The City Code, Sections 617.6 and 612, require tree protection and traffic safety. Obey the City Code and protect the trees and pedestrians at Kendall. Stop imposing your racist bigotry on this city. Trees give us clean air and shade. Trees are living links to our past and to our future. Protect the trees at Kendall. Stop your unconstitutional racism and protect the Kendall trees. See y'all next time.
BK Rao, 2246 Sherman. My comments were approved by my attorney. It is neither amusing nor legal for you to stop people with darker skin from talking and allow a white person to talk at length in a society that is supposed to be running on democratic principles. Case in point, the mayor has been turning off the microphone on me and my daughter for talking about the Kendall-Ree subdivision. Yet, she let a white person talk at the August 13th meeting about the same issue. All the excuses to violate our rights that the mayor has come up with for the last several months were magically set aside for a white person. The truth is that the mayor doesn't want anyone to hear from non-whites the truth about the Kendall issue or the double representation by Holland and Knight in this matter. But she wants white people to support her violations of our constitutional rights. The mayor forbids us from talking about your official actions in Kendall, but she allowed a white person to talk about the same Kendall matter. Now, there is a lot of talk in Evanston about green, but at every corner of the city, I see tree stumps as witnesses to an evolving graveyard of tall trees. How sad. I learned that a little care from the city could have saved many of those ash trees whose stumps are like fallen heroes who gave us shade and clean air and died because people in power neglected them. Yes, the city apparently has money to spend on a privately white-owned wine bar to antagonize Veolia and end up in court, to foolishly rely upon the so-called incontrovertible proof to close the keg, only to have it reopen again, amounting to legal malpractice, to pay court-ordered damages for civil rights violations in the La Salvia case, and to be taken to the court for more civil rights violations in the Davis case. But this city, which claims to be a Tree City USA, did not bother to save our tall trees. It is easy to protect the Kendall trees, all the trees. In case you haven't noticed, my daughter and I are being encouraged by this city's minority population for standing up for our rights. All your actions to silence us points to evidence of a determined conspiracy to deprive a minority of their constitutional rights. You were informed, all of you, and I shall return.
Thank you. Jackie Newsom.
Mayor Tisdale, City Manager Bobkowitz, City Clerk Green, Alderman Fisk, Alderman Braithwaite, Alderman Nguyen, Alderman Wilson, Alderman Holmes, Alderman Tindem, Alderman Grover, Alderman Burris, and my alderman, Alderman Ann Rainey. Good evening. I wish that I could let the air change for a moment, because it seems that racism is a trigger word this evening, but I can't. So I want to begin with two things. One, I want to make the Newsom position clear. As Jacqueline Newsom, my sister Patrice Newsom, my parents Terry and Jermaine Newsom, it is not our position that the Evanston police should not do their job. It's not our position they shouldn't apprehend criminals. It's our position that they should do their job, but rather go about it in a sensitive way, conducting investigations or apprehensions of youth in a more sensitive manner. Second thing I wanted to begin with was my family's credentials. My mother and father both work full-time. My sister is a sophomore at Clemson University in South Carolina, studying food science with a minor in food packaging. We are both alumni of Evanston Township High School. I was the commencement speaker in 2008. I just graduated from New York University, cum laude, and I'll be attending the University of Chicago Law School. Just so that it's clear, we're not your common riffraff. Now, my sister experienced an incident in 2008 with the police along with her friend. I spoke at the Human Services Committee with my mother about the details that I perceived and that my mother perceived as compared to an incident that I had with a white male in a vehicle in my same neighborhood, Alderman Rainey's neighborhood. But my sister wanted to detail what happened to her specifically, so I'm simply going to read her words verbatim. During the summer of 2008, I was walking home with a friend and stopped literally in front of my house and questioned by 2 white Evanston police officers. The officers sped behind us in a car, abruptly stopped, and then came toward us. They asked us where we were coming from, and I pointed in the direction we walked from and told them we came from Asbury Street. I told them that I was at my house and I wanted to go in. They told me that I couldn't go into my house because a young lady had been attacked on Asbury and we needed to come with them. I asked them if I could call someone, and they told me I couldn't look or go into my purse for anything, and they took my purse and put it in the police car. Then the police officers cursed at us, telling us that we could either get into the car the hard way or the easy way. We could voluntarily go, or they could effing handcuff us. They continued to curse at us and badger us, and out of fright, we got into the car. We got into the car only after trying to convince them that we weren't the ones who attacked this young lady. The officers told us that 4 girls attacked her. One of the girls had braids, and another girl had a red shirt, but they were unable to tell us anything about the 3rd and 4th girls. I had braids and my friend had on a red shirt, but we assured them that this crime was not done by us. We drove around to the victim and she identified us as not being her attackers. The police left us in the car for a bit and we read the description on their tablet. It was of a girl with a red shirt and micro braids. We saw nothing about multiple girls, and the victim was on Dodge, not Asbury. We were 16 and not allowed to call our parents and tell them we were being forced to be identified by a victim. Though they left us in the car by ourselves, and I had my cell phone, I felt that if I would have tried to call someone, I would have been punished in some way. We rode around in a police car and were seen by people we knew, though we were innocent. Not only did we not get an apology from the officers at that time, we got dropped off as if nothing had happened. We were disrespected by the police and humiliated. I have never forgotten about this incident, and I have never felt the same way about the Evanston Police Department. Every time I see a police car, I feel that I could be subject to another injustice. I believe it is important not only to hold the police department accountable for these events, but also our community. People must stand up for each other and not let injustices take place. Thank you.
Thank you. If someone has said what you are going to say, you can simply say you agree with the previous speaker. And please, if you can, limit it to 3 minutes. The next speakers are Arlene Jackson, Earlene Murphy, Priscilla Giles, and Martha Moser.
Excuse me, I thought I was just signing in. I am not speaking.
Bless you.
And I'd like to sign in if I could at some point.
We've already taken all the sign-ups.
Violate my rights to speak?
We have concluded that each speaker would get 3 minutes based upon the number of speakers that signed up tonight.
Thank you.
And we're already way behind. Could we please have, would you please have Arlene Murphy? You were just signing in. All right. Then you can speak. Priscilla Giles, Martha Moser. Does that mean speaking? Go ahead, Priscilla.
Okay. My name is Priscilla Giles, and I live at 1829 Ashland. This morning before 7 o'clock, I was awoken by what was stated earlier was not demolition, where 8 units are being constructed against the will of the majority of the people who live in that neighborhood, where the physically challenged people will have an even harder time with the additional people living in that area. But tonight I also want to speak to Dwani. Dwani was my Sunday school student, and a more exemplary person I could not tell. He and his family, they're the best. Only about 2 weeks ago, the police department gave a presentation on about complaints, the way we should complain of the Citizens Network of Protection. We were told that we had 2 months to clear up whatever would happen. And if we didn't complain and have it all cleared up in 2 months, we really didn't care. I think that the consequences of the action to Dwani, to his family, are long-lasting, and this incident can cause emotional problems for him and his family for the rest of his life. I know this to be a fact, but a formal public apology might go a long way to help what's coming down. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Moser.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Martha Moser. For 30 years, I've lived at 929 Washington Street in Evanston, and I own Moser Sewing Studio, which is 2 blocks away at 906 Sherman Avenue, kitty corner from Vogue Fabrics. In my business, I offer private sewing lessons, sewing workshops conducted by national and local teachers, custom dressmaking, and tailoring alterations. Demand for my business is not overwhelming, but I do have a niche market. I appear before you because as a businessman, I have a catch-22 problem, and as a resident, I propose a solution. Okay, problem. Several months ago, Revolution Spin, a spin den, moved in across the wall from me. No business could be more opposite than mine. My business requires quietness for conversation and serious contemplation. Revolution Spin moved in with loud music, a microphone, and amplifier. They exercise to yelling and loud reverberating music. The noise carries as if there were no wall between us. As you might imagine, it is a great disturbance to me, and none of my patrons like the noise. I was patient the first couple of months, thinking that surely soundproofing would be installed. Finally, I confronted Jason Bressler, the owner, and asked that he install soundproofing. His response was he'd thought about it, but didn't want to spend the money. Meanwhile, my business was going down the drain because students didn't wish to return. In effect, he was willfully and knowingly conducting his business at the expense of mine. My complaints to the landlord cast management fell on deaf ears. I documented to the landlord in several emails I had lost business because of the interference next door. Matt Yellen, the building manager, chose not to address my problem. I called the police several times when the noise was excessively and unnecessarily loud, and here is where Catch-22 comes in. The police told me I have no rights to complain. They said the city of Evanston had issued Revolution Spin a business license, and with a spinning studio, loud music and shouting is customary to that operation. Therefore, they could not take action. And yet there are city ordinances against noise, and Revolution Spin has violated many of them. If I, as a business, cannot complain, certainly I can complain in behalf of residents in the same building. The building is essentially an apartment building with 2 floors of apartments above and storefront businesses below. All of the businesses below, except Revolution Spin, has a quiet operation. There's a photographer, a violin repair shop, an art gallery, and a mail order operation. Including me, none of us make noise in conduct of our business that carries beyond our walls. 2 weeks ago, Cast Management informed me that they won't renew my lease when it is up in November. I subsequently learned that Revolution Spin intends to expand into my space, and I suspect that the motive for Cast Management is they can get more rent that way. I'm resigned to giving up my business. However, I am not agreeable to having Revolution Spin continue to operate in the neighborhood. I live just 2 blocks away. I've been active in the Main Street Station Merchants Association, and I feel very protective of the character of the Main Street Station Business District. I don't believe that Revolution Spin enhances the area and, in fact, creates an unsavory atmosphere. Its presence is like saying, this neighborhood doesn't care. Here's my citizen solution. I put a petition up on the website change.org to gather support for the city to pull the business license of Revolution Spin. Just among my customers, I have 100 signatures in favor of my petition. I have not canvassed the neighborhood, but I feel I could gain much more support for my cause. Noise pollution must be addressed. Revolution Spin is not in partnership with its good neighbors. In behalf of the neighborhood at Main and Sherman, I ask the City of Evanston revoke the business license of Revolution Spin at 904 Sherman Avenue. And I have, for the record, my petition, the comments that it was generated, some emails documenting my loss of business. So,
thank you. You could
that
leave
goes to the
those
city
with me.
clerk?
Yeah, that would be fine.
That's you.
Miss, Ms. Mosley? Oh, I'm happy to take them. Also, Steve Griffin, who is our Community and Economic Development Director, I'm going to ask him to meet you out in the hallway to learn some more about this. Mr. Griffin?
Next will be Margaret Tarr and Adam Howard of 904 Sherman.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Tarr, better known as Peggy. I'm not going to read all that I had prepared since Ms. Moser covered most of it. But beginning in November 2011, I started complaining about the noise coming from Revolution Spin, located at 904 Sherman Avenue. And I'm sorry, I live at 907 Sherman. The noise consists of loud music and yelling via microphone by Revolution Spin instructors. On November 22nd, I requested in writing that Revolution Spin at least close its doors to lessen the noise. I sent a copy of this request to Alderman Wilson. On June 11th, 2012, I sent a letter about the noise to the mayor, city manager, and council members. Before and after June 11th, I called the police department to complain about the noise. And although several tenants in my building complained to me about the noise from Revolution Spin, to my knowledge, they did not call the police. One tenant did say that she went over to Revolution Spin and complained. The noise continues. As recently as yesterday, I complained to the police department several times about the noise that could even be heard in my kitchen, which is almost 50 feet away from the front of the building. As Ms. Moser said, I learned this week that Revolution Spin plans to expand to include the adjoining business. Ms. Moser states that she has complained about the noise, which you just heard in her statement, and I'm a witness that the music from Revolution Spin has been so loud that in Moser's sewing studio, I could actually feel the vibrations from the music in my feet. The city of Evanston gave Revolution Spin a license to operate in an area that is primarily residential. There are many, many apartments near Revolution Spin. A better location for Revolution Spin would be in a mall, such as the one at Dempster and Dodge, a location that is not close to residences and is supposedly seeking occupants. I feel that Ms. Moser is not being treated fairly by cast management, and I actually call into question what the city is doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
Good evening. My name is Adam Howarth. I am the general manager of Revolution Spin. I didn't want to let any complaints fall on deaf ears. We are operating as business as we have the rights to. Is our music loud? It can be. We've responded to the complaints we've had earlier. We've closed our doors. We've made efforts to bring the sound down. We've gone from 2 speakers to 1. We're trying to address this as possible. I've never heard from Mrs. Tarr in past, and I would like to speak with her so I could respond to her directly, and we can work to make this a better situation. As far as Ms. Moser's sewing studio, we haven't heard from her in 10 months. We've just been responding to many complaints to the police to have them come out and respond to our noise levels, in which we've never been cited. We just want to operate a business and be successful. A lot of our business comes from the city of Chicago and the surrounding areas. We feel that we bring a lot of taxable income into the community. Understandably, not everyone agrees with the way we do business or how we go about it, but we're trying to operate within the constraints that we are given. We are actively pursuing ways to put in soundproofing. We just want it to be cost effective. Method number 1, we looked at spraying soundproofing in. Expensive, we wouldn't be able to stay in business. Item number 2, an item I'm currently researching, is to have mountable soundproofing on for the walls. As far as expanding into Ms. Moser's space, I'm not directly related to that, but we would like to increase the size of our business. That space that we would take over and use for business, we wouldn't be playing music in that space. We'd use it as a storefront to sell more goods and to provide personal training and other exercise services. The unit directly above us, which I don't believe is 907, I'm actually unsure. We've also talked to the property management company about being able to lease that space so we can sublease to tenants that are fully aware of where they're going to be living, or we could provide that as a service to one of our instructors as we employ 10 instructors and me as a full-time manager. I have nothing else to say, but I appreciate you hearing this, and I would not like to contribute any further to a problem for the City of Evanston, but instead be able to provide more dollars and be a better business overall. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the gentleman who did not sign up please come?
Eric Potter, 7940 Foster Street. I was here at the 545 Administration and Public Works Committee meeting once again.
Would you spell, I'm sorry.
P-O-D-E-R-S. Would you like my credentials?
No.
Fourth generation Chicagoan, born in Rogers Park. I love the village.
I just need the address again, please.
7940 Foster Street.
Thank you.
If you reflect back to the minutes of May 29th, there are several errors, both by the clerk and both by everybody's got errors. I have a letter here dated June 1st from your corporation counsel that has several inconsistencies. I will state what I stated at 545. I don't know where you found Mr. Farrar, but his bullying and intimidation tactics in a form letter where I had asked you, Mrs. Mayor, for a formal apology is unacceptable. It looks like you now have 2 formal apologies to make. I've waited 3.5 months to come to this meeting. I waited for the entire summer. I've got a nice tan from the beaches in Evanston. I paid for my beach token in 2012. And in a letter dated June 1st, your attorney states that I did not pay, quote, you further admit you have refused to purchase a beach token for at least the past 3 years. Wow, I've got a receipt from 2010. Maybe I didn't come and make that purchase. Your intimidation tactics in this village are unacceptable. I'm coming here as a resident of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comments. I would like to... Oh, Mr. Risky, I'm sorry. Thank you for waiting so patiently. That almost concludes public comments.
Thank you. Janad Risky. On Friday, I went to the city's 4th annual Green Arts Show. The show gave me some inspiration. A few weeks ago, the city had Sheridan Road restriped from Northwestern's campus to Euclid Park Place in Northeast Evanston. It appears to me the contractor sandblasted all the old paint striping off, and he left it in all the gutters, mixing it in with dirt. There appears to be well over a mile of this mess on Sheridan Road. And I will give you samples of what I took off the road to pass around to council members and anyone else. I spoke to someone knowledgeable in environmental law. This probably is not a violation of environmental law, although he mentioned he felt it was very disgusting and distasteful. Basically, our storm drains connect to our rivers, the Mississippi River, and some in northeast Evanston connect to Lake Michigan. Really, to allow this waste to go into the storm drains by the city really shows mismanagement of the city, as usual, unfortunately. Anyway, I decided in my artistic moment to put together a little piece of artwork because I went to the Green Art Festival, and I call this Cost Savings of the City of Evanston. So, for the people at home and in the audience, this is City of Evanston Cost Savings. So, maybe I'll enter this next year in the City of Evanston's next annual Green Art Show. Unfortunately, these environmental mistakes are troubling. As some of you might remember, the city approved closing down our yard waste operations, sending the leaves off to Glencoe at a so-called cost savings of $75,000, which wasn't a cost savings, by the way. And then, of course, we have the problem in the last year or two where the city, unfortunately, made more mistakes with yard waste and cost the taxpayers $1.4 million. And basically that added to your tax bill about 3% property tax increase. Unfortunately, along with this and phony environmentalism, we have phony cost savings. Another thing of great concern to me is what's happening with the Harley Clark Mansion on the lake, which is basically a lakefront park. The city wants to sell this land and change the zoning. And basically what they stated is they'll change the zoning to what the buyer wants. And that's selling zoning, and I'm going to keep saying that. That's really not ethical. It's a problem. Another recent claim of cost savings that it was even more troubling and maybe fits into the theme of tonight was when the city moved ECTV to the second floor of the service building. Basically, the city knowingly did this, and it violated basically the civil rights of disabled residents because there is no access to the second floor of the service building. The city knowingly did this. Now, the city, in its report it just created on correcting so-called disabilities, will fix this in 3 to 4 years. So what you're basically saying is anybody in a wheelchair has no access to the service building. Did this council knowingly approve this, that you basically were violating the civil rights of residents? That's what I would like to know. Unfortunately, mistakes and environmentalism and these kinds of things are troubling. And I think on this issue, though, I wasn't really going to talk about the police issue, but I have some concerns, too, because, frankly...
Mr. Risky, I appreciate
Yes, you want me to wrap up, but you gave plenty of other speakers a long time.
I did indeed, and I will to you, but you are a regular, so you know the 3-minute rule.
Yes, I know the rules. But, you give many people many more time than me.
Go ahead. You can have your extra time.
All right. My only comment is basically the city... having these, pretend you're going to have a meeting on racism and all this stuff, it's a management issue, how the police operate. So this council needs to deal with the management issues here of the operation of these things. The problem here is this council does not know how to manage anything. So it's a real serious problem here, how we manage the budget, how we manage everything here. You just deal with politics, and that's really quite unfortunate because the taxes here are really in trouble, and frankly, I'll be back, so.
Thank you, Mr. Risky.
Oh, and one last thing. This is for Mr. Green to put in his office. Thank you, Mr. Green.
I'm crushed, Janad.
Alderman Holmes, did you want to speak?
Madam Mayor, I know it's not our policy to address after citizens' comments, but I would not like residents to leave tonight who came to speak on the issue that the Greenwells have brought to our attention, which they brought to our attention last week at our Human Services Committee. And at that time, we did talk about putting this on a fast track, which Mrs. Greenwell referred to tonight, in terms of that coming back before our committee. It does have to go through the process, but we are going to look into this as soon as it comes before the Human Services Committee. Also, last week at Human Services, it was mentioned several times about the issue of officers not knowing our community and not knowing our children. And so, therefore, tonight I am taking the time now to do it while people are here rather than doing it later, to make a reference to the Rules Committee on the subject of what we can do to encourage our police officers and our firefighters to live in Evanston. So I'm referring that to the Rules Committee so that we can take that up as something that we can address as a council to try to deal with that particular part. Whatever kind of incentives that we can come up with, anything that will encourage some to live in this community. So, City Manager, that's a reference for the Rules Committee.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd just like to thank all the residents that took the time to come out this evening, and also the respect and tone in which you articulated this issue that we've been dealing with for years. So I thank you for that. Alderman Holmes mentioned in the Human Services meeting, and I'll say it again, just on behalf of the council in the city, an apology to the Greenwells and also to their son. I've had an opportunity to meet with them very briefly outside of this meeting, and you do exactly the same thing that I do with my son, and it's unfortunate this happened. In the same breath, I will applaud just the Chief Eddington, who's sitting outside listening to all of this. He's a good police chief, and he does care about the community. And I did hear, and I hope everyone else heard what the Greenwells had to say in terms of their comments toward the police department. This isn't an indictment on the police department, but really it's challenging us to look very closely at those who display this behavior in which the community came out to speak about. So I also would like to make a referral to the Human Services, if that's the correct department, that we take a very close look at our police stats and we drill down to the complaints and see who is complaining, and if it's possible, take a look at the officers for frequency. I would agree with a lot of the comments that there does need to be some additional training. I think if we approach this as we do, we've spent thousands of dollars to teach our police to shoot effectively. And in this urban environment, I can't think of any officer that has to draw his gun more than once a month, if even that much. So I'd like to think in a city like Evanston that everything is manageable if we choose to make it a priority as council. And I would hope and pray that we can make this a priority. And whether it's take a look at those numbers of offenses and take aggressive goals to lower them, or at least be able to present to the community the fact that we're responding with additional training, and that may be a budget issue that we'll have to tackle later. But I just want to make sure that we keep that a priority. Again, thank you all for coming out. Your presence here has been received. I think for many of us, we hear the concern and will respond. So again, our apologies and thank you again.
I also would like to thank everyone who came to speak tonight, particularly the Greenwells and their son, who I met at a Shoot Screaming Eagles award ceremony, and I realized it was a traumatic event, but I want you to know that I think a Shoot Screaming Eagle is going to be absolutely fine in the long run, and a tremendous young man, and you have a terrific career ahead of you. I have greatly appreciated the comments, so I am changing some of what I had to say. While I thank everyone who spoke, I very much appreciated the comments about the Evanston Police Department, because we do indeed have a police department that tries, and as we try hard to, and we always try hard to make ourselves better in every way in this community, and as we deal with the issues you have brought to our attention, I know that we will do it while also remembering that the police department did a fabulous job with those two young children who were being made to rob other people's homes by older men, and the terror that those young boys felt. And we will remember the terror that the young woman felt when she walked into her home and it was being robbed. So as long as we remember all of those people and take them all into our consideration as we strive to have a better police department and be a better city, I believe that if we keep them all in mind, we will succeed and will do a better job in Evanston. So thank you all for raising these issues, and thank you all for coming out tonight.
I just wanted to say that racial profiling affects all of us.
Thank you.
Really. I didn't plan to speak, but I had to say that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the mayor's public announcements and proclamations. And you all are leaving. It is no text on board. Pledge Day, September 19th, 2012. Whereas text messaging is the main mode of communication for most of our teenagers, with 90% of our teenagers expecting a reply to a text message within 5 minutes. And whereas texting, whether sending or reading a text, takes a driver's eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. And whereas in recent survey conducted by AT&T, 43% of our teenage drivers admitted to texting while driving, even though 97% know it is dangerous. And whereas drivers who send text messages while driving, teenagers and adults are 23 times more likely to crash. And whereas a driver who sends a text message while driving jeopardizes his or her safety, as well as the safety of passengers, pedestrians, cyclists, and other drivers. And whereas in 2010, the City of Evanston passed an ordinance prohibiting operation of a motor vehicle while using a mobile telephone. And whereas in 2012, the Illinois legislature banned operation of a motor vehicle while composing, sending, or reading a text message. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth B. Tisdall, Mayor of the City of Evanston, do hereby proclaim September 19th, 2012, as No Text on Board Pledge Day, joining other Illinois municipalities in encouraging all drivers to take the pledge to never text and drive again. I plan to place on the Monday, September 24th City Council agenda for consideration as a special order of business the issue of funding for the Evanston Technology Innovation Center. The TIC is an important community asset, and the city, I believe, should fulfill its funding commitment to it. And that concludes the mayor's comments. City Manager, do you have public announcements?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Matt Smikowski, our interim citizen engagement coordinator, is here going to cover our paid Evanston Purple event on the 29th, the citizen budget outreach events we have coming up, as well as our roadmap for the art. Actually, I think Mr. Dieter is going to take care of the budget, but we'll start with you, Matt.
It's that time of the year again, Paint Evanston Purple. It's the third annual installment, and we'd like to invite all council members as well as all residents to join us coming up on first Thursday, September 27th for the pep rally. We'll be at the Clock Tower near Chicago and Clark Streets. Like previous years, we'll have the marching band as well as football team captains and many other special guests. And then Evanston Day at Ryan Field this Saturday, September 29th. As the Wildcats take on the Indiana Hoosiers. Kickoff is to be determined, but we hope to have a great turnout from the community. This is the first time Evanston Day is actually scheduled for a Big Ten game, which is a great, and we're very excited by that. Sideline tickets are at a discounted rate of $25, and if you have any questions regarding Evanston Day at Ryan Field, you can contact myself or
Alderman Grover has a question.
Yes.
It's an 11 o'clock kickoff for the Indiana game. 11 a.m.
11 a.m. kickoff.
And they're doing very well.
The Wildcats are 2-0.
Yep.
So far this season.
It's my definition of very well. I don't guess I'd make a good sportscaster.
And Matt, why don't you go ahead and cover the roadmap for the arts meetings?
Sure.
While you're...
As part of a collaboration with the city as well as the Community Foundation and the Evanston Art Council, we're collaborating to gather public input on arts in Evanston and generate recommendations for policy, programs, as well as infrastructure. This collaboration will suggest a roadmap for the arts in Evanston. As you see right now, it's a temporary website. You can go to evanstonarts.org. This is just kind of defines what the program is about, as well as lays out what the upcoming listening sessions are about. And that's really what the roadmap's all about. It's gathering grassroots input from businesses, residents, artists, to come out and express what they think the roadmap for the arts should be. The meetings are happening from September through January. The first one will be Thursday, September 20th, 10 a.m. to noon at the Music Institute of Chicago. Second one will be Thursday, September 20th, 7 to 9 p.m. at Fleetwood Jourdain Community Center. The third will be Monday, September 24th, 7 to 9 p.m. at Oakton Elementary School. Friday, October 5th will be the fourth meeting from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Ecology Center. And then the final meeting will be Saturday, October 6th, 10 a.m. to noon at the Marion Lee Block Museum of Art. All this information is available on evansarts.org, and we will be updating the website on a very regular basis so people can go there, fill out surveys, get any information on this initiative as well.
Thank you, Matt. I'd like to next ask Brandon Dieter, who's our Senior Management Analyst. Brandon really runs the budget process for us these days to talk about our community outreach efforts that will be starting this Saturday.
Thank you. Good evening. Brandon Dieter, Senior Management Analyst, Administrative Services Department. Tonight I'll be providing a brief presentation about the city's citizen budget outreach effort that we'll be undertaking from September 15th through the 22nd. A little bit of background. Staff began planning for the fiscal year 2013 budget back in July. As part of this process, the city will be launching a citizen budget outreach effort with the goal of soliciting input and ideas from residents regarding community priorities and budgetary challenges. Through this outreach effort, residents will be encouraged to submit their budget-related suggestions, ideas, and comments to the city using one of several communication channels. They can reach us on the web using the city website at www.cityofelvanston.org/budget. They can email the budget team at budgetinquiries, all one word, at cityofelvanston.org. They can Facebook us at www.facebook.com/cityofelvanston. And they can Twitter us at www.twitter.com/cityofelvanston. And finally, residents can either call us and submit their suggestions via 311, or they can send comments to us through the mail to the city manager's office at 2100 Ridge Avenue, Evanston, Illinois, 60201. This next slide has the schedule for the citizen budget outreach effort. The outreach effort will take place from September 15th through the 22nd. This will be the periods that residents can submit their ideas to the city. On September 15th, city staff will be available to discuss budget ideas with residents at 3 locations throughout the city. We have the main library at 1703 Orrington Avenue. We have the North Branch Library at 2026 Central Street, and the Levy Center, James Park area at 300 Dodge. The last event will take place on September 19th, and that is the Citizen Budget Input Session, which will be held in this room at the Civic Center.
And Brandon, what time are people going to be out on September 15th?
We will be out from 9 a.m. to noon.
9 a.m. to noon.
Yes. And Matt will be talking a little bit about the Mind Mixer software.
Thank you, Brandon. Again, Matt Swankowski, Interim Citizen Engagement Division Manager. A new feature we have this year, which is kind of exciting, is what's called Mind Mixer, and it's Mind Mixer Evanston. It'll allow the city to another means of effective online engagement. The traditional community meetings only provide one option. You come to a specific meeting, you state your comments, which we're obviously still doing with our outreach meetings this Saturday as well as next Wednesday. But actually, Mind Mixer provides citizens with access to share ideas, solve challenges, and interact with community leaders at any time from anywhere. Really what the Mind Mixer site's going to do is it's going to lay out a series of approximately no more than 3 questions where residents can go on and submit ideas regarding these questions are designed to be thought-provoking, and it's really a grassroots-led effort by residents. Just to start with, we have 3 questions. One, a general-related question to just what you see as important to the city of Evanston. The second would be budget-related, and what would be the most important services that the city provides to you and your family. And then to tie into what I spoke about earlier, the third one would be to what does arts mean to the Evanston community as a whole. So really what Mind Mixer, like I said earlier, it's really meant to spur conversation, get more residents involved, in addition to our other efforts, really help implement ideas and offer constructive conversation, and to keep residents engaged. We'll keep the site fresh. We'll change the questions. Once the budget process is done, we'll switch it up. We'll also switch the questions probably on a very semi-regular basis. But it's going to be a great opportunity to hear directly from the residents, and then for residents to build upon other comments from their fellow residents as well. So this is actually live as of today, and we're going to keep building on it throughout the budget process and throughout the fall.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, maybe one last additional word with Mind Mixer. This is a service that communities all over the United States are using, and it's not unlike what we did with the budget the last year, where we asked people to make comments. People could comment on those comments. Our hope, though, is that this will be a permanent part of our website, that we'll ask people to focus on questions regarding the budget now, but it'll be there 12 months out of the year. As Matt indicated, we will post questions throughout the year, ask people to engage. We'll use Twitter, Facebook, other means to let people know what's there. We've seen this work in other communities like Evanston around the country, and it's a real interesting service. So we'll give this a try and hope that our residents come to that. One last announcement. This Saturday, in addition to our budget outreach efforts at 1 o'clock, is the 10th anniversary celebration of the Levy Center. So we're encouraging everyone to come out to the Levy Center on Saturday to celebrate 10 great years of serving our community from that location. Madam Mayor, that concludes my announcements.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications for us?
Yes, I have a few, Madam Mayor. We're getting phone calls about when is early voting. That will start October 22nd through November 3rd. Those who are looking for absentee ballots, and anyone can do an absentee ballot, we do have forms in the office, clerk's office in hand, that you can pick up, fill it out, send it in to David Orr's office, and they will then send you an absentee ballot. As of September the 25th, those who want to run for office, you can start sending out your petitions, get your signatures, and you have until between December 17th and December 24th to file with the clerk's office. Those announcements I have for today, Madam.
Thank you, City Clerk. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda, please?
Well, I'm going to make a little preface remark. Last, and obviously getting least important, is the business of the city. So it's late. I hope people can stay awake because we're dealing with very important things such as union negotiations and pensions. But who's awake at this hour of the night? The consent agenda is as follows. Approval of the minutes of the council meeting August 13, the special meeting of August 16. The payroll through the 12th of August, $2,759,689.16. Through August 26, $2,688,033.29. The city bills through September 11, 2012, $5,446,750.40. Credit card activity from the city of Evanston through July 31st, in the amount of $139,368.03. The Administration Public Works Committee requests your approval of sole source purchase of 10 Union metal Talmadge street light poles from Gray Bar Electric in the amount of $27,352.90. Union Metal is the sole fabricator for the 4,000 plus poles we have in town. Next, the committee recommends your approval to authorize the manager to award a contract in the amount of $2,989,228 to Insituform Technologies USA for the large diameter sewer rehab phase 1 project, contingent upon receiving the loan from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. The funding, all eligible construction, this funding will cover all eligible construction costs, and the loan would be repaid over 20 years at 2.5% interest. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute a contract for the 2012 structure lining contract with National Power Rodding Corporation in the amount of $79,324 for 50 brick manholes. The committee also requests that you authorize the manager to execute a contract for the Evanston Water Utility Security Door replacement for the replacement of 3 doors with G.A. Johnson & Son in the amount of, they're an Evanston contractor, in the amount of $94,880. The committee recommends that the manager be authorized to extend the current agreement with Connolly Academy for martial arts program services at the Levy Center up to a total of $30,000. All expenses for the program are covered by participation fees. Committee requests also that you authorize the manager to execute a contract for a single source purchase from Total Parking Solutions of Cali for Cali Pay and Display parking terminals to be installed as a pilot project on 4 blocks of Church Street in the amount of $51,296. We ask also that you authorize the manager to execute a contract to award the additional MFT street resurfacing contract to A-Lamp Concrete Contractors in the amount of $289,126.50. Approval is also requested for the manager to execute an emergency contract award to Glenbrook Excavating and Contracting in the amount of $1,565,915.85. This will expand the scope of the 2012 water main and street resurfacing contract to include emergency water main replacement and street resurfacing work on Central Street from Cowper to Central Park. Next item is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. This has to do with adding Central Street. Next is we request your approval for the January 1st, 2012 actuarial evaluation for usage of the 2012...
Can we take that off?
Okay. How about the contract agreement for firefighter local 742? Okay. The committee also recommends your approval to authorize the city manager to execute a collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 742, that's our firefighter local, effective January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2013. Approval will ratify the agreements executed through negotiation process. We ask your approval also to authorize the manager to execute a collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, union effective January 1, 2012 through the 31st of December 2013. The City Council's approval of this will ratify the tentative agreements that have been executed through the negotiation process. Next, the committee recommends approval of authorizing the city manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Wilmette to grant easement for the relief sewer installation and resurfacing of Isabella Street from Highland Avenue to Ewing Avenue in the amount not to exceed $200,000. Next item is A9, which is a resolution which recommends approval to authorize the city manager to execute a lease agreement with the Erie Family Health Center for office space in the ground level area of the Civic Center. Next, we ask your approval for the City Council to recommend to amend the City Code. Oh, this is off the consent agenda, A10, and will be addressed by the City Chair, by the committee chair. I think that it's being removed from the agenda.
Right, it wasn't even on our agenda.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to do with last week.
Pardon me?
A10.
A10 is on my agenda. Next item is Ordinance 87012. This sets the compensation for members of the Evanston City Council with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1.
You take that one off?
Okay. How about all of them?
Just that one for me.
Just that one? Ooh. Pardon me? Okay, that's for the mayor. All right. A11 and A13 are off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. A12 is Ordinance 88012. It's for introduction. and sets the compensation for the Evanston City Clerk with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1 through May 1.
Take it off.
Okay, that one's up. All right, everybody, listen up. Any others off the consent agenda? I have the township assessor and the supervisor. All right. Next, do we need to go into the township? Do we need?
It's okay.
Madam Mayor? No. To do the township salaries, do we have to go become township? No. Okay. Moving right along. Ordinance 90-012, setting compensation for the township assessor. Compensation is set for the township assessor with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1, 2013 through May 1, 2016. For introduction also is Ordinance 87-012, which sets compensation for the township supervisor with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1, 2013 through May 1, 2016. For introduction, the following, I'm going to read the explanation here. The following 4 agenda items, A16 to 19, pertain to the implementation of Emerson Square. Does anybody want any of these items off the consent agenda? Hearing no. A component of the city's $18.15 million Neighborhood Stabilization Program, NSP2 grant awarded by HUD. Resolution 63R12, plat of subdivision for 1600 Foster Street, follows as an action under the Planning and Development. That's why when you hear all of these lots being mentioned, outlots and lots, they're going to be taken care of under Planning and Development. First, A16. The committee recommends approval of introduction of Ordinance 92-012, authorizing the manager to negotiate a real estate contract to sell lots 1 and 2 described in the subdivision resolution that subdivides the city-owned property at 1600 Foster. Next, Ordinance 93-012. Staff recommends and the committee recommends introduction of Ordinance 93-012, authorizing the manager to execute a real estate contract to sell 1 and 2 lots, portions of the vacant property at 1600 Foster Street. Ordinance 97-012 is for introduction, and it authorizes the city manager to negotiate a real estate contract to sell lots 3, 4, and 5 and outlots A and B, identified in the subdivision resolution. Next, Ordinance 98-012. We recommend introduction of this ordinance, which authorizes the manager to execute a contract to sell lots 3, 4, and 5 and outlots A and B, portions of vacant property at 1600 Foster Avenue. Next, 58-012, regarding the designation of
Take
Chicago.
that one off.
A20 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Ordinance 78-012, which authorizes the sale of surplus property. The sale of various vehicles is recommended and equipment owned by the city through public auction. The vehicles and equipment are either presently out of service or will be. This is for action. Under Planning and Development. This is an amendment to your agenda. It's on the yellow agenda. This should read Ordinance 107-012, renaming a portion of Mulford Street west of Dodge Avenue in James Park as Lionel and Irma Carter Drive. Madam Mayor, I'm moving introduction and also suspension of the rules on this matter. Okay, next, this is approval of a substantial amendment to the 2012 Action Plan Home Program. We're requesting this because it establishes a once-a-year deadline for home applications for action. Next, we request your approval for adoption of 63R12, this is the subdivision issue, which would approve the creation of 7 lots from 1 at 1600 Foster and will implement the first phase of Emerson Square the second component of the city's $18.15 million Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2 grant award by HUD. Next item is Ordinance 94012, which amends the special use for a convenience store at 555 Howard in the B3 district. It extends the hours of operation from 1 hour earlier, 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m., and allows the business to be open until 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. I move introduction and also request the suspension of the rules if no one objects. Next item is Ordinance 96012, granting a special use. This is for introduction for a planned development located at 1211 Chicago Avenue, commonly known as Trader Joe's. Next item, under Human Services, the Township Supervisor recommends the City Council approve the Evanston Township bills, payroll, and medical payments for the month of August in the amount of $107,532.22. The Alderman Wilson, do you want me to take this off so you can discuss it, Alderman Wilson, or should I leave it on the consent agenda? Okay. Alderman Wilson recommends adoption of Ordinance 28012, which would enact, this is for action, which would enact a new Chapter 17 of Title IX of the City Code, prohibiting 1, the use of citizen band radio equipment that is not authorized by the Federal Communication Commission, and 2, the unlicensed operation of CB equipment on frequencies between 24 megahertz and 35 megahertz. Next, under Economic Development, an alderman has requested this be removed from the consent agenda, and it will be addressed by the Economic Development Chair. Madam Mayor, there are no committee appointments on this agenda, and therefore I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no lights on for further discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burse.
Aye.
9-0.
9-0, the consent agenda passes. Alderman Grover, could we have Administration and Public Works, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First item for separate consideration off the consent agenda is A4, approval of change order number 1. I'll move approval of change order number 1 to the Church Street Improvement Contract, Central Street Streetscape, Lincolnwood Drive to Ewing Avenue, with the amendment that the funding will not come from Economic Development Fund and the CIP, but rather entirely from the CIP as discussed at committee.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Seeing no lights on for further discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
No.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burse.
Aye.
8-1.
8-1, the motion passes.
Madam Mayor, the second item from Administration Public Works is A5, approval of the, I'll move approval of the January 1st, 2012 Police and Firefighter Pension Actuarial Report.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
One of the things that caused me to pause on this was, for lack of a better way of putting it, this appears, or it might appear, that we are approving this budget for the allocation. We are?
Well.
I mean, my understanding is that we're approving this report, and then that we will, subsequent to approving the report, be making a decision later on what the actual funding amounts are in conjunction with the budget. Is that correct?
Alderman Rainey, did you want to answer that?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We had 3 options. There is the state-approved method of calculating what is due. there is another method who I'm blanking on, and this is the actuarial approved recommended method. And it is the most responsible method, and I believe tonight by supporting and approving, we are not accepting this report. We are approving it. And we are committing, I believe, to the levy stated here. In one case it's 8 million plus, in another case it's 6 million plus. Yes, I believe we are. I think it would be disingenuous for us to approve this tonight and then change our mind the time of the budget, unless something radically different happens.
And the levy is, as I understand it, less than...
It's a little less than last year.
Yes, that's my concern and why I was among the people who wanted it off the agenda. It is, I believe, a good goal to be trying to get these pensions funded at least 50%. And in order to do that, I would like to put in as much money as we did last year.
Well, we are putting in over 14 million this year,
I know.
which Mr. Lyons indicated was a little bit in excess of a third of our entire general fund tax levy. And, I mean, the gentleman from the organization is here who can talk to us about this, but this is based on the best actuarial science that there is, I believe.
I believe the actuary's report is correct, and I have no complaints about the actuary's report. The actuary was not trying to get us over 50% as quickly as possible. If we go, I believe, into the 30% funded ranges, then it is very difficult to ever recover. So I also hope for a legislative solution to some of these problems, but I don't see it coming anytime soon. And they say that perhaps in January they will discuss pensions in the legislature, but they do not have police and fire even included on their list. So for that reason, it's my personal opinion that I would like to put in as much as we did before.
I think I misexplained what I meant. This is the minimum he's recommending. We can go way over this, but this is
no, we can't go way over.
But I hear I did not understand what you meant at first. This is the highest amount based on the three formulas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we can, as a council. What I'm saying is we have to accept this recommendation. We can, when we do the budget, do more, but I'm saying we can't do less if we accept
Then I'm for accepting the recommendation. Thank you for explaining that, Alderman Rainey.
Sorry, I screwed up, but that's what I meant.
And I'm saying that when we do the budget, I would like us to do the same amount that we did this year. Sorry, Alderman Burris.
I just want to say, I agree with you, Mayor Tisdale, that I would like to fund as much as we did last year to try to get to that 50%. And I want to ask the city manager why the staff recommended to fund less than we did last year, and could we get a clarification from Mr. Lyons, if that would be okay with you, Mr. Bobkowitz, about changing it during budget season, and is that going to affect what you've already put in place with the budget recommendations that you currently have? I'm sorry, is that making sense?
There were 3 or 4 questions in there.
Okay, so the first is, why did the staff agree to fund less than last year? And 2...
Okay, let me one at a time.
Go ahead.
We have not made a recommendation to you for funding.
Okay.
This is the actuarial's
Okay.
report.
All right. One
That was
clarification. One. 2 is the budget information that you've already put together is if we decide to put more into the fund, is that going to obviously throw off your budget, what you've been working on so far? And can we do that? I see there's some smiles. So I would just like to address that if we're going to accept this recommendation and then 3-4 weeks from now, we start talking about the budget and we're talking about $700,000 to $1 million more, that's a different conversation. So we might want to have that conversation now. Thank you.
There are two issues at play here. One is the report of the actuarial, and I think you're all clear on that report. You're all clear what the recommendations were. We would ask that you accept the report, because under state law, there needs to be this report, and you need to receive it and accept it. In past, what you have done, once you've accepted it, is that those numbers have then gone into the budget. You are not precluded from making a change. You can't go any lower, but you can go higher. And then to your kind of last point, what does this do to our budget process? I'll just say that if you're looking to go higher than what's in this report, the sooner you decide that, the easier our life will be. Because $700,000, as we've talked before, we feel pretty comfortable with this budget. Part of that comfort came from knowing what the actuarial report said. So if the council is looking to do something different, it would be good to know that as soon as possible, so that when we come to you, October 12th is the date that you're going to receive October 12th is the date that you're going to receive the budget, and that is only a short month away. So if the council, so I think there's two issues here. One is the report. If you're satisfied with the report, we would encourage you to accept the report. If there is a majority of you that wishes to look at raising the dollar amount above and beyond what the actuary has recommended, we would ask, as soon as you can express that interest, the better. We could then put it on an agenda for discussion separate from the budget deliberations. So if we knew the answer to the question of how much you want to spend on the pensions before the 12th of October, we can then provide you with a budget that includes that dollar amount. Does that answer the various questions?
Yes, and I believe there's probably at least a couple, if not a few of us that may want. So just to have that alternate, to keep that in your mind and have that as an alternate when the budget's coming forward, I think would be helpful.
And Alderman Burris, members of the council, given the magnitude of that, I would ask respectfully, if not tonight, sometime in the next couple of weeks, that the council revisit the issue, because it's going to be very difficult for us to have a $700,000 alternate that will not likely involve laying off employees, and I don't want to provide layoff notices because it may be something the council talks about during the course of the budget process. So if there can be a more definitive statement, again, it doesn't need to be tonight, but sometime in the next 2 weeks, I think that would certainly be helpful to us. And we're supportive. We agree with those of you who have said that it's important to fund pensions. It's one of your council goals. One of our challenges, of course, is just balancing your overall budget. So we're not recommending support or not support for changing that number. We just would like to know what the council's direction is.
Alderman Wilson, I apologize I interrupted you.
Thank you. Just so we're clear, I don't want to reduce the funding amounts, and I understand that there are state minimums, but these things sometimes don't turn out as we'd like or as we'd expected. The materials show us that we have a composite return over, I think, a 4-year period of less than 4%. The estimates were 7-ish, and so there was a substantial period of time where we didn't meet the target. So I think it's important to be very aggressive in getting up to a higher percentage funding. I completely support the mayor's desire to get to that 50% and higher target. It's going to be painful. It's going to hurt as far as cash flow is concerned, but I don't see any relief on behalf of this, by the state on any time in the future, and I think it's likely to potentially even get worse. So I think it's incumbent on us to make hard but responsible decisions in that regard.
Well, sometime they may change the rules on pensions. Alderman Tandem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too would be among those wanting to look at the maintaining the current or past level of contribution, and also looking at some of the actuaries' assumptions. That I did watch the AMPW meeting tonight. I understand the philosophy. I'm just, it seems like we are not being quite aggressive enough, going backwards in some sense. To me, doesn't make any sense at all. So I would support the equivalent to last year or even better.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk, did you?
My question was answered.
All right. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I have to completely disagree with Alderman Tendam. and that is, of all the years I think that I've read these actuarial reports on pensions, I think this is the most aggressive recommendation that I've heard. This is the there are ways to calculate what should be done by the person who does this work on the pensions, and we got the greatest number that he could come up with based on the formula. I would like to hear from my colleagues who are recommending, including the mayor, who are recommending increasing the amount of contribution to or adding to the levy, exactly how you're going to balance that. What tax increase is going to complement that increase, or what reduction in expenditure are you going to put on the other side, on the other column? So hopefully we'll hear that. This is very little. This is not much less than what we gave last year. Once you start talking 14, 15 million of a budget that is around 44 million, a levy, you're going to have to start really getting out, getting the cuts. Either like the city manager said, start cutting people, or you're going to have to really jack up the percentage of increase in the tax.
I believe it would entail a 1 or 2% increase in the property tax.
Well, you do that 5 years in a row, and you got a 10% increase.
Well, we're going to pay this. The sooner we put more money in, the less money we have to spend in the long term.
I think what I would recommend is that we have a sit down with the company that did this report and listen to some of the thinking regarding that.
That would be fine.
But we're not going to increase the levy tonight. So.
No, we're not. So, seeing no further lights on for a discussion of this, it's been moved and seconded to approve the report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. City Manager?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I will be honest, I am a little concerned. Would like to get some direction from you, if possible, prior to October 12th, so that we do understand where the will of the council is. You have a council meeting next week on the 17th and then one on the 24th. I guess I would respectfully request authorization to place this issue back on an agenda for further discussions so that you could come to a consensus. Is that
would be fine.
Right, we have next week is the third meeting, so we have a variety of issues. Are you prepared to talk about it as soon as next week? I'm sorry. Well, or it would be a special order on the 24th. Is there a preference? The goal setting thing, the next week, 17th, part of that is goal setting. Yes. I'm sorry, 18th. Yes, the Jewish holiday. We're meeting on Tuesday. So is the 18th all right?
Sure.
All right. So we'll go ahead and place this issue on. I'm sorry. Are you going to need the actuary?
I think we should. I mean,
I can be here on the 17th. It's Jewish. The 18th. I'm sorry.
18th.
It's the second day. Well, in the evening I can be here.
Yeah, that's when we
sundown is at 6:59. Or you'd like to wait to the 24th. I mean, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I really think this is a policy question. I think the actuary has provided a wonderful backdrop of where we stand, but I think the question before you is that good enough, or do you want to spend more? And that, I think, really is a question for the council. The actuary, I think, has done his job to provide background. But we can do this. Sir, would you be available to come on the 24th? All right. I would like to propose the 18th then.
Second.
The sooner we know,
fine.
the better. Very
right.
good. In the evening, after sundown.
7 o'clock, right?
And actually, sir, we would probably be a little later than that. So, Madam Mayor, thank you, members of the council. We'll put this on your agenda then for Tuesday, September 18th.
Thank you. Back to you, Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item A10 did not appear on the agenda for APW. A11, I move ordinance 87012, setting compensation for members of the Evanston City Council with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1st, 2013 through May 1st, 2016.
Second.
Alderman Wilson.
I'm certainly not saying we don't deserve the increase, but just in the context, I don't think a single person up here does this for the money. So I'm just not inclined to support the increase.
Alderman Rainey?
Just to clarify for Alderman Wilson, I probably would not be able to do this if it weren't for the pay, because I'd have to get a part-time job, so just so you know.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
No.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
No.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
Aye.
7-2.
7-2, the ordinance passes.
Madam Mayor, item A12, ordinance 88012, setting compensation for our beloved Evanston City Clerk. Ordinance 88012 sets compensation for the Evanston City Clerk with an annual raise of 2% for the 4 years beginning May 1st, 2013 through May 1st, 2016.
Second.
City Clerk, did you want to speak to that?
Yes.
It's okay, you don't need to put the light on.
The reason I said take it off the agenda because I feel that with the economy as it is today, I don't do it for the money either, but I don't think deserve a raise, but I don't think I want to take it at this time.
God bless.
Thank you, City Clerk. Seeing no further lights on and no more discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Can I? Wait a second. How do you want us to vote?
The clerk has recommended we vote no.
We're not voting for ourselves, we're voting for the next council. So
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's a good point. You can turn it back in, Rodney. You can give it to me.
Okay. Well, you're right. We are voting for the new position itself. Okay, not person. I'll put it back in. I may not be here next year.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance setting compensation for the city clerk with an annual raise of 2%. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes.
Item A13, ordinance 89012, I move approval setting compensation for the mayor of Evanston with an annual raise of 2% from 4 years beginning May 1st, 2013 through May 1st, 2016.
Second.
Well, I agree with the city clerk. I think I'm well enough compensated and don't do it for the money, but I may not be the mayor, so maybe it will, the 2% will encourage someone else to run. I don't know. But I did want to say that I think I'm well enough compensated. So you can vote any way you want. And seeing no lights on for further discussion, City Clerk, would you call the roll? It's been moved and seconded to approve a 2% raise for the mayor. Introduce it.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
Aye.
9-0.
Well, thank you all. I'll go start spending.
Madam Mayor?
Give it to the Your confidence in me is overwhelming.
Our last item from Administration and Public Works for separate consideration is A12. I move adoption of Ordinance 58-0-12, proposing approval of a redevelopment plan and project adopting tax increment allocation financing, convening a joint review board and calling a public hearing regarding the proposed Chicago, Maine redevelopment area. Adoption of this ordinance will initiate the public hearing process for the designation of the Chicago, Maine tax increment financing district, which was introduced at our meeting August 13th.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
All right, I've already talked to him blue in the face, so I'm just going to add briefly that I don't believe that that this meets the standards for the TIF or for a TIF, and I also don't believe that it's appropriate that the city provide the financing for the development of the private office building.
Well, that's not in here.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, Alderman Rainey.
Well, I'd like a clarification of that. It's not my understanding that tonight we are going to vote on approving financing for the private office building, that it is simply in here as a possible legitimate expense.
And Madam Mayor, Alderman Rainey, that is correct. The council had asked us to do better after the Dempster Dodge TIF. We want to make sure that the community has the benefit of all of our thinking on this proposed TIF, so those documents have that. This ordinance would allow us then to share that information with the community and get feedback.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen?
Well, just briefly, I will state my support, as most people know, for this Maine Chicago TIF. That corner has been vacant for a very long time. We have a remarkable opportunity here by TIFing this district to provide, number one, infrastructure repair that we simply don't have the money for. And in so doing, by creating this TIF, we will provide a tremendous economic engine for that corner and for all of the business districts and the wider community around there, including increasing property values for everyone who lives nearby. Almost 2,000 people get on that train, the two trains there every day. We will have 300 to 400 office workers. The mayor and I were just at a new business opening this past week on Chicago Avenue. All of those businesses, most of whom are Evanston-owned and based along the Main Street corridor, will benefit enormously from having the increased daytime traffic. And they will also benefit, we'll all benefit from the infrastructure improvements that will come along. So I am very much in support of this and really look forward to the good changes that we'll have at Maine and Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, City Clerk, would you call the roll on Ordinance 58-012 regarding designation of Chicago, Maine Tax Increment Financing District?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
No.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover. Aye. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Cabarrus. 7-2.
7-2, the motion passes. Alderman Grover, that concludes your report.
It does indeed.
Alderman Fisk, could we?
There's nothing. We did everything.
Are we suspending the rules?
Oh, I thought Alderman Rainey did that.
No, but I didn't move that.
Oh, okay, thank you. All righty, so this is now ordinance 107-0-12, renaming that portion of Mulford Street west of Dodge Avenue. This is the one you wanted, right? Okay. In James Park, Lionel and Irma Carter Drive. This is for introduction and action, and we're suspending the rules. So first we vote on suspension of the rules.
No.
We did.
Oh, did.
We did that.
We got
okay.
that with the consent agenda.
All right, so approval.
And Rainey's very efficient.
Good, okay.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then P4, Alderman Fisk.
P4, we're also suspending the rules for Ordinance 94012, amending the special use for a convenience store at 555 Howard Street in the B3 district. Staff recommends approval of proposed ordinance amending the existing special use for the convenience store to allow it to open at 6 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. and to remain open until 8 p.m. instead of 7 p.m.
Thank you. This is for action. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. Alderman Fisk, I believe that completes your
Yes.
report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, seeing no further items, we are... Economic development. Oh, that's right.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Grover.
I move approval of Resolution 66R12, authorizing the city manager to execute a $100,000 construction loan agreement with Nomad Dream, LLC, to assist with the expansion of Heartwood Center located at 1818 Dempster Street.
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Burris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This came before Economic Development Committee, and we had many discussions about getting information about the financial viability of Nomad Dream as well as Heartwood Center, which are actually two different entities owned by the same person. And my concern about this loan is that the bank that is giving Nomad Dream a loan said that their cash flow could only support $475,000. But we're going to give them another $100,000 on top of that to add to their burden. I view that as what the banks did to many homeowners in the mid-2000s. They allowed them to take out mortgages that the banks knew that they couldn't afford, and we ended up having a huge problem that led to our financial crisis. I see that the same thing here. The other problem is that we weren't given all the information from the owner of Nomad Dream or Heartwood Center. And I understand because it's a public body, if she gives us her financials, that becomes information that can be FOIA'd by anyone. But without the historical information, financial information of this entity, I'm not sure how we can make a decision to loan $100,000. It's nothing against this person or the business or what they do. Everybody has said positive about the business. This is a financial decision. And I remain concerned about making financial decisions without all the documentation, without all the information, when we're using taxpayer dollars to do that. As part of this for economic development going forward, I think we should change our standards. We shouldn't be looking at grants as much. We should be looking at loans, but we need strict criteria on what the applicant should be giving us in order to evaluate that loan and evaluate the financial wherewithal to repay that loan. The applicant at first said 5 years, and now it's 6 years. Came back, a few weeks later and said, no, I actually really want 6 years. There's a balloon payment at the end of that 6 years. How will that be funded? It's been said that will be funded by refinancing with the bank. But the bank is not going to guarantee 6 years from now. They're not giving us a guarantee that that'll be funded. The bank also has a balloon payment at the end, I think, of 5 or 6 years. So you have two balloon payments coming. I just financially don't see how this is workable. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. I made a lot of comments about the Dempster Dodge TIF, and one of the comments that I repeatedly made was the generalizing poor appearance of the surrounding area. And this is a dramatic exception to that. This is a known commodity. This is a business that's provided a positive impact to this community. Pretty much a pioneer in my view. It's not a fast food restaurant. It's something that's different and positive. And I think it's kind of disingenuous for us to toss the developer across the corner $2 million to spruce up a shopping center, and we're going to give this known commodity in our community a pretty hard time, about a $100,000 loan. Frankly, even if we don't get the money back, the money spent sprucing up the corner is probably going to be well spent. So I'm very comfortable endorsing this known commodity and this positive impact in our community with this loan.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have discussed this at length, and I'm actually a little bit disappointed with some of the comments that I heard just a moment ago. First, I just want to quickly acknowledge the staff for all your due diligence and hard work in getting us this information that the Economic Development Committee needed in order to make their decision. I also want to thank all the residents that come out and in support of Heartwood. I think these past 2 economic development meetings, I've seen more residents and business owners out in support of that business, more so than I've seen in the past year for any other proposal. So I acknowledge those that are at home paying attention to this, as well as Heartwood for the role that you've played in the community to serve as an incubator. I share these comments at the past Economic Development Committee meeting, and it's true. I've heard from more residents and business owners, and just in terms of the wonderful work that they're doing, and I think all that's just important to say. So now, in terms of the hard facts, and the owner of the business has made herself available multiple times to all members of the committee. And I think it's more of a policy issue than it is, it's a little bit deceiving to say that we didn't have all the information. The numbers that was presented to the Economic Development Committee were numbers that were extrapolated from her audited report. The owner chose not to show her personal information, which to my knowledge no other business has had to show their personal tax information online. She did make herself available multiple times to the committee. She did that in an email that I was copied on. She said that publicly to the meeting. So I think to say that you didn't have all the information, again, is a little bit misleading. This is a loan and it's not a grant. And we have in the past, we've supported grants. Some of us even here have supported grants. But I just want to make the case clear that this is a loan. It is a secured loan against the property. I can't recite the numbers right now. I'd have to go into my packet, but from my understanding, Nancy, you may have to correct me if I'm wrong in reciting these numbers, she originally paid less than $300 for the property that was abandoned, closed, an eyesore in that community. The amount that you will owe against the property after this loan is approximately, is it $400 to $500? Is that correct? For a property that appraised at $1 million. And so the estimated value of the property with the total capital improvement, and that loan isn't going to pay for someone's salary or any of the operating, it's going to invest in the physical property that's going to allow for 40 additional businesses to come into the neighborhood. Again, what I like about this is it fits the economic development model. We see 3 entities involved. The owner has skin in the game. We have a bank that's willing to invest $250,000 into this property, and the gap that's needed in order to execute this plan is $100,000 in the city. I couldn't think of a safer plan in terms of how we invest our money. And again, we are fulfilling our #1 goal of economic development. So I just want to thank all the members of the committee that voted in support of the proposal to get us to this point. And again, I'm definitely supporting this plan moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Alderman Burris, I share your concerns. I've shared them from the beginning. I'm a small business owner. I understand how financing works. I understand how a success of a business is very, in these economic times, temperamental. It's a very difficult position for us to be in up here on the council because obviously there's very strong support in the community for your organization. My recommendation to staff was that you reach out to your providers and ask them to put some skin in the game as well. I'm going to support you tonight, but I'm doing it with strong reservations. The thing that brings me to the vote to support is that the property is secured and that we are on the mortgage in the second position. I don't believe in appraisals. I was in real estate for a number of years. Appraisals are sort of take a snapshot of the moment. We don't know what's going to happen years down the road. So this is a great leap of faith that I'm taking in support of you. But I really would encourage you to reach out to your fellow practitioners that are using the building and ask them for their financial support as well.
Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Alderman Tandem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, too, was one of the aldermen that didn't or found it difficult to support the shopping center TIF at Dempster Dodge. However, I have no reservations about this investment or loan as it is. I feel that the improvements the owner's made to the property already, she's already contributing to the TIF, and I think it's very important that something of this success so far be encouraged by both economic development and this council. So I will support this.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
Well, I support everything everybody who's in support of this has said, but I want to add, and sort of want to repeat it, but I do want to add one thing, and that is I am so confident of this project that I believe we will be using this project as advertising and public relations for this program of loaning people money to expand and to keep them in the community. I mark my word, this will happen.
Thank you, Alderman Burris.
Yes, I actually wanted to respond to Alderman Braithwaite's comment. The tax information was never put part of the public record, and that was exactly my point, is that if we're moving forward doing this, if it's a single-person proprietor coming in or an LLC, the tax information needs to be part of the public record. And that is something that we haven't done. We haven't done due diligence in a really stringent way, and we need to. Going forward. I agree 100%. I think we should get rid of the grant program. I have voted for grants, and I have been one of the proponents against the TIC, and will continue to be. But if we're going to give public money, we need all the information, and we don't have it. And that is a fact. There's no question. I don't think anybody can say we have all that information. It's not part of the public record, but we need to look at things different going forward. This is taxpayer money. And I'm not willing to bet, if it was my $100,000, and I said this at Economic Development, if it's my child's college fund, I wouldn't put it on the line. And I'm glad that you're confident that you would put your children's on the line. I wouldn't.
Alderman Braithwaite. Yes, you can. I think you're the last speaker anyway, so I think you don't need to. Except I would like to say I do support the project, and I'm very impressed with everything that they've done. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem.
Aye.
Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. 8-1.
8-1, the resolution passes.
Thank you so much.
That does actually conclude, unless I'm missing something more. And so it is time for call of the wards, beginning with whom? With Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just quickly want to thank city staff for attending our ward meeting last week. Suzette Robinson and Wally Bobkowitz and Ron Blumenberg, as always, do a great job. And I just appreciate their willingness to come out in the evening and speak to the residents of the First Ward, especially since we have so much construction going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I just want to quickly thank the council for a few things. First, last week on the 24th, your presence, your notices, phone calls during my father's passing was very well appreciated. The mayor, Wally. So on behalf of my family, I just want to thank the City Council for your support during our family's time of grief. I also, again, want to acknowledge all the neighbors, residents that came out in support of the Greenwell family. I don't want to repeat everything that was said, but I think that we do have some healing and work to do around the perception of the police department, and not the whole department, but a few, and not in terms of the whole community, but a certain section. And I believe in this council and the work that we're doing, and I know that we'll be able to get our hands around that. And I, again, support the police chief. And then lastly, to all the residents of the Second Ward, we do have a Second Ward meeting this Thursday at the Joseph Hill Educational Center, beginning at 7. We have a bunch of information and speakers coming out, so I hope that you can all join me. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I wanted to thank the staff and the City Council members for all of the hard work on the Main Chicago TIF. I think this is going to be a tremendous, almost a revolution at that corner in terms of how different it will be. Chicago Avenue is really looking very different over the last few months, and even more good news is on the way. Second, I want to congratulate one of our new businesses along Chicago Avenue, C. Jane Sparkle. It's a wonderful new business in the 800 block of Chicago Avenue. Owner designed jewelry, wonderful stuff. We had a terrific ribbon cutting. The mayor and I were there on Saturday night. I urge you all to stop by to another Evanston-owned business. And my last comments tonight are about a really, really marvelous Evanston citizen that we lost last week or a week ago, Albie Lauterbach. She passed away just past her 90th birthday. Albie was always part of the Albie and Ned. You always heard people speak of them both, and Ned is still going strong at the Mather. She was really a force for a lot of liberal causes for her entire adult life. She helped political candidates reaching back 30, 40 years. I've been at several events where Dick Durbin talks about sleeping on Albie Lauterbach's living room floor when he was a volunteer campaign worker for Paul Simon's first campaigns. She was a community activist in so many ways here in Evanston. She and Ned were really a tremendous team. She was the mother of 5 and really led a remarkable life. And I think her contributions to our community should be recognized, and she will definitely be missed. So my condolences to the entire Lauterbach family.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson?
No report.
Madam Mayor, may I say one more thing?
Alderman
Ned Lauterbach was the 3rd Ward alderman for a long period of time. And so Albie, by extension, is part of the aldermanic family. Thank you.
She certainly is. Her advice to me as an alderman was very clear. She said, you don't vote just for your ward, you vote for the whole city. Alderman Holmes?
Just wanted to say, join us tomorrow morning at 7:30 at Fireman's Park for the police and fire department's memorial for 9/11.
Thank you. Alderman Tandem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Something I frequently remind people in the ward of. In the last week, we've had we've had 7 break-ins to cars and garages on Pioneer, Woodland, Marcy, Payne, and Noyes there, and another one on Pioneer. These were all very opportunistic break-ins. None of the cars were locked, none of the garages were locked. So my suggestion is to lock it up. There are definitely people going about trying these doors and trying to get in. On a little better note, I'd like to wish the Jewish community of Evanston Lashana Tova, Happy New Year, and good days to come in these following weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank Peaceable Cities, Joey Rogers, Officer Lois Spells, Rabbi Brent Rosen, and Bishop from Christ Temple Church.
I know, Faith Temple.
Faith Temple.
Bishop Moody.
Bishop Moody, yes, thank you for their leadership and hospitality for our Peaceful Cities Walk yesterday. I think one of my favorite things to do is long strolls with old friends and friends I hadn't met yet, and that was exactly what happened yesterday. It was really nice. And Rabbi Brent Rosen has recently published a book called Wrestling in the Daylight, A Rabbi's Path to Palestinian Solidarity. And if you like a good read, and Rabbi Rosen is one of the most thoughtful, smart people I know, and I'm sure it's a great book. I've already ordered it. And lastly, I think Alderman Fisk, I have the same lineup for my ward meeting, which will be October 11th, featuring Officer Ronald Blumenberg, Wally Bobkowitz. We'll be talking budget and other things. So, October 11th, 7 o'clock at the Evanston Ecology Center. Please join me.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Just a reminder at 1 o'clock on Saturday about the Levy Center celebration.
Thank you. Alderman Burris. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Please take your mugs from the fire department.
Thanks.
Please take your mugs from the fire department.
Yes.
I got here. I got here late when you were talking about compensation.
It's just down the street.